Hello everybody at home. This is the Evening Star. You can say hello Evening Star, and I hope that you do. Or also known as DK Echo-Hawk, also known as like 100 other different names that are all equally unimportant and valid. I'm an artist, I guess, and a rowdy village Indian kid. And I'm from Alaska, and I've lived in Seattle for 14 years, and came out here and literally came out here and found a lot of cool shit that I started doing, specifically the Indigiqueer party and the first show, You Don't Have to Go Home But You Can't Stay Here. Just a lot of rowdy village Indian throughout the entire time with Indigenized productions and a bunch of really great people. People are like my first special interest in life, I think, besides music. I've always just been surrounded by tons of really cool native people and like always wanted to understand them and make them laugh, and I just got really good at it. And performing in the village is like culture, you know. It's like you don't do it for money, you just do it because you and your 100 friends need to have a good night because it's 40 below outside. You know, so I just always was able to do that in the village, and when anybody needed somebody to laugh, they got me. And so yeah, that's where it started. I got kind of famous real fast, and I was not ready. And I'm thankful that I, somewhere in my head, consciously knew that if I pursued this, I might die. Like, I'm not built for that kind of, at that time I didn't have a grounding in like who I was like I do now, or like I did when I was younger even. I just felt very ungrounded and was falling apart. And thankfully had some wherewithal to not do that and pursue it. But I do understand that it was like really empowering. I'm ultimately very impressed with what I was able to do. And it's not like I'm giving up comedy. I'm just not calling it that anymore. I just do stuff. And it's not, right now that's not the thing I'm focused on, because I'm more focused on Indigiqueer and my music and like this experience that I'm going through, because it's like, it is all the things I do. It is it's hilarious, it's silly, it's sexy, there's mistakes. You know, there's like mirrors on stage and I like change on stage, and there's altars and, you know, roses and cheese whiz. And that's, for me, like the heart of Indigiqueer is just me, like, I just want to do what I want to do with my friends. That is what it is. And it includes a lot of things. It's different every time. It's some of my own music. It's a lot of DJing. It's lip syncing and burlesque and climbing on walls and like pull-ups. Rose petals and corn that's thousands of years old, and like, you know, storytelling and friends and people making out, and you know, and people recovering from harm together. Like it's wonderful, and it's the best, and anybody who can hang is welcome to come, you know. And like, but that's all you have to do is like, can you hang out? And like, and you know, and you're welcome to be there. I've had to come to respect and honor that from the get-go, from me doing events in Seattle of any kind, starting in Shoreline Community College at the Native Club and just like bringing Native kids together. From the get-go, people have told me that the spaces I bring are healing and help them when they were suicidal, or help them when they had been assaulted, and help them find community and family and that kind of stuff. But when it was starting to happen, I was still just a deeply traumatized kid, and that felt like so much responsibility. I didn't want to be a leader. Like, I didn't want to. I just wanted to have a village again. And so Indigiqueer, like, is the most authentically me thing that there is, because it is just, somebody told me once that it seems like it was the physical embodiment of liminal space. And I was like, and at the time I said, I don't love that, because I don't want to, because it's tiring sometimes to always be changing. You know, I know stories from both of my tribes and other tribes of people who do that, and that it's like a normal thing that happens. You know, there are people who are changing people, you know, like that's what they do. They walk backwards throughout the world and like do everything a little bit different. And you know, you can call it whatever you want, you know, but at the end of the day, like, I walk backwards up mountains with lots of clothes on and DJ, you know, and like, and I don't know, I'm not doing it for anybody but for me. And so, you know, as close as I can understand, I'm something like that. And most of us are something like that, probably, our own version of those things. I've always been in the pursuit of my freedom, you know, and I'm a Native person in Seattle. Even when I wasn't like actively like doing activism or organizing or whatever, and just like sitting by the river, you know, and trying to like figure out life. That was me doing something for the Native community because I'm a part of it. And I've had to learn that my selfishness in that way can actually be good. You know, there's a good type of selfishness where you make sure that you're all right, you know, so that you can help, you know, and that you can take care of people and help keep the village going, you know. There's things that in this space that I've created for myself, for my own healing, selfishly, that people have reflected back to me has brought them so much of the same. And I've learned that is a responsibility, you know. If I'm gonna keep doing it, it's a responsibility. I have to take care of these people and like not traumatize them and not like dive them too deep at a dance party, but also like leave space for if something happens that we can work through things together. And like it is the most basic thing I know how to do, which is like to do community, you know, to just trust each other and like and perform for each other because you love each other, and there's things you got to get off your chest that day, or you got to like express some part of yourself, and you're grieving something or whatever. And Indigiqueer is the people, and I'm the evening star, right? And they're all their own people, and they're all their own stars or whatever. And like people are involved in it. It's like I've always wanted to involve people in the processes of what I'm doing, and I finally figured it out. I bring them into my living room. This is what I do at home, is I put my music equipment up, I have mirrors around, I have like my very native shit everywhere and like clothes, and I change on stage and I do makeup, and sometimes people will perform, sometimes I just perform, sometimes it just depends on the day. You know, by doing that, I feel like I've just found that an audience responds in a way that I've always wanted them to. It's hard to tell you where that comes from because it's just the first thing that comes to my brain. Like what, you know, your references, right? It's just, this is what I know. Like I went to the Battle of Little Bighorn like reenactment when I was like 13 or something on the road to Oklahoma. It was like, yeah, like my big native dad and me were cheering like as Custer got killed. Like, you know, like that's just being the kind of native that I am. That's what it is. So like, I don't know what to tell you. It just, those are my references. And so like, it's just authentic, right? It's just like, for me, it's like, why? It's June 25th. That's when Custer, I've been celebrating that in Seattle for probably since 2015. Like, it's just a thing that I do. Like, I remember putting it together the first time, like, let's celebrate the death of Custer. Before I even came out, I think I was doing that. It's just like a part of ingrained in my being to celebrate the death of colonizers always. It is my favorite thing, you know. I love celebrations. That's my and I you know, like I found that humor is the best way to keep a crowd happy and moving, and to feel like they're in good hands, you know. And like being a host is like probably my strongest quality. It's just like it's just something that I'm really good at. I've always been doing it. I've always been able to make people cry. Because the reason I admired the aunties who make people laugh after crying is because that's what I wanted to do, you know. Because there was a lot of grief in my village growing up, and it was a tough time, you know. Like boarding school era is still like affecting us daily, and most of us don't even know it. Like most of us had never even heard of the boarding schools, and like a lot of drugs and alcohol, and a lot of people were dying, a lot of suicide, well, not in our village specifically suicide, thankfully, but you know, in the surrounding villages, which that's cousins, that's family. So we're going to a lot of funerals, and people were dying of all sorts of things. Laughing is the thing that disarms you the easiest. You know, it's hard to get to sad if you can't also laugh, you know. And yeah, that's just like, I think that's just how I navigate the world, and that's how I've gotten out of most of the problems I've gotten in, you know, like, is through humor, you know. And then also in there is defiance, which I think is probably the #1 characteristic of being Native that I think everybody must study and learn and inquisitate. Making up words for it, you know, like you must figure out your defiance. You must find the part of yourself that will not be removed no matter what happens to you. That you were born a Pawnee and Athabascan, and you'll die a Pawnee and Athabascan, and Doesn't matter what happens to you, you'll die with a hand around their throat and a smile on your face, you know, knowing that you have lived being who you are. There's active genocides all over the place. There are people who are just trying to recover from those genocides, witnessing other genocides. There are people who went through a genocide now genociding. You know, there's all sorts of wild things happening, and I don't know how everybody else is processing it without doing crazy things like I'm doing. Like, it's somatics for me. It's spiritual. It is deeply important to me. I would do it alone, and I have, and I will continue to do so. And I don't care what anybody thinks about it, because it's how I stay happy and how I stay alive, how I process grief is I dance it into the ground and I put it in there, and there's a lot of it, so I got to keep doing it, you know. And like I said, it's just going. I'm trying to go back to basics of life, of humanity, of being a person, because when I was 13 years old or 12 years old, and I didn't know that I was adopted Athabascan from Matasta Village, you know, Upper Otna people, and like also like a kick hockey band member of the Pawnee Nation on the Morgan, and that, you know, before I knew all those things, I just was, you know, I just was a little native kid in the woods in Alaska, and I was running around with my gun and my friends. Before I knew I was trans, I was also those things, because I'm not those words. I am the evening star, I am celestial, I am closer related to the mountain than I am a pronoun, you know, like, I think that it should be true of everybody. You got to find the thing that is not, it has nothing to do with anybody else. No one can take this from me. Not even I could take this from me. This has existed within me for as long as I've been alive, and probably before. You know, I don't know. All I know is I don't know. And I love it. It's great, because every day I get to wake up and ask myself, what would the evening star like to look like today? How would I like to be free today? What would I like to try? And the more and more I do that, the more and more I dance, the more and more I sweat, the more and more I eat healthy, and the more I don't have to block out parts of life, because I have enough space in myself to feel. And I highly recommend it. It's doable. You know, it's not easy all the time, but it is doable. I promise you.